Welcome to the Everyone Has a Story podcast. On any given day, we've all been fallen victim to having a dream, having a goal. Some dreams are bigger, some dreams are not so big, but the overall result is that 92% of us are going to fail to achieve our dreams, achieve our goals. That's a staggering number. It's a sad number. And I want to tell the story that kind of puts an emphasis on the sad, because we're going to talk about today of making that sad, turning that frown to an upside down, making it smile again, because we have to have success here. That's what our dreams are all about, is living something that we want to achieve. So anyway, my story starts like this. I'm the general manager of the club, the fitness facility that I own. One day, I had my top sales guy stick his head in my office and he says, "Roger, we have a problem." This guy is rock solid. He's probably the best sales guy I've ever met. The old saying, he could sell ice to an Eskimo. This guy could, but he could do it the right way. And I looked up, I said, "What's the problem?" And he just looked off. He says, "I've got this guy in my office that wants to join the club." I'm thinking, I still don't see a problem. I don't hear a problem. He says, "Roger, he wants to lose weight." Perfect. We're the premier health club of the Tri-Cities. We can help that guy lose weight. He goes, "No, Roger, it's worse than that." I go, "How can it get worse than that?" He goes, "He wants to lose 66 pounds. I go, "Geez, that's perfect. He knows exactly how much he wants to lose." He goes, "No, Roger, you don't understand." I go, "Then enlighten me." He says, he wants to lose it by Saturday. Today was Thursday. I don't know of any health club that can help unless they have a chainsaw. They don't have the ability to help someone lose 66 pounds in 3 days in a healthy way. And I'll always remember this guy. I will never forget him because I saw the look in his eyes. He so desperately wanted to reach this goal, but for some reason he procrastinated and he just couldn't get over it. His mind just wouldn't let him get started until 3 days before. Now he's in this panic. I mean, this adult man was actually crying in my sales guy's office because he was so distraught. And I look and I'm thinking, we're here in this particular business, the health club business, to help people achieve their goals. But we always talk about, maybe if it's to lose weight, maybe to lose 2.5 pounds per week, something that's going to be very, very small, but very, very safe and healthy. And I'll never forget this guy's face. But then, as a business consultant, I talk to business owners and managers every day, and I see where they have this goal. And then after I talk to them, a week, a month, maybe even days later, they don't even remember their goal. It's already gone by them. And I'm thinking, how does this happen? So today we're going to get into the brain. We're going to get into the brain of these individuals. We're going to find out really why this is happening and what we can do as individuals, because 92% of us have failed in other resolutions, other goal setting events that we've tried. And the fact is that that's, to me, unacceptable. And today I've got the right guest because she is really your brain coach. I love that title. I mean, I've had a brain surgeon on one time, but now I got the brain coach. So now we're going to really talk about what's it take to really train your brain. And what I love about this is that it's the small, simple steps that we all think, that's not going to get me anywhere closer to my dream. But really, she'll tell you why it is. So, Dominkia, welcome. I can't thank you enough for being my guest today. So I want everybody to get introduced to Dominkia Staniewicz. I love that name. She's a certified life translation and brain coach, and she's an author. She is the author of The Magic of Dreaming Big, Acting Small, and Achieving Success. All right, let's get started. So I've introduced you. Tell us a little bit more about you before we get into our podcast.
Well, hello, Roger, and hello to everybody who's taken the time to listen to what we have to say. I'm truly grateful that you are granting me one thing that you will never get back, which is your time. And I'm a brain coach and an elite neuron coding specialist, which is combination of knowledge of the science, of the organ, of the whole body, as well as psychology, neuropsychology, and as well methods that will get us and optimize our brain. And I absolutely fell in love with this methodology and this combination because it just gets the results faster. And it's not only something untangible, but it's actually measurable. Um, and I could get into the science, but I think you're looking really for the practical parts. And you've mentioned that I said, why the small steps? And the book is right about that. The magic of dreaming big, acting small, and achieving success. And everybody goes, but we need to burn our boats. We need to take massive actions. We need to change everything, radical change now. No, you don't. No, you don't. And I'm going to be very playful about it because it is important that this method does work for some people. Let's give it credit where credit is due. And it works for people who usually have unfinished trauma or unresolved trauma. And they have this yearning desire that something will never happen to somebody. Or they cultivated that feeling of, I don't want this happen after the trauma. And they're going off that feeling. Now, most of us in the world, we don't have that type of trauma in our lives. And we find ourselves recognizing that we don't have a why that makes us cry. And everybody keeps telling us that we have to have a why that makes us cry. No, we don't. We need to have a why that keeps us going, that has us happy, that we see progress. And progress is a key thing here, besides another component. See, big dreams are amazing. The problem with big dreams and New Year's resolutions is that all of them are overwhelming for the brain. Your brain cannot take change in a radical way in all the spheres of your life. Your brain will start and then will go, oh my God, it's too difficult. Never mind, I'll go back to what I used to do. Our brain is designed to optimize and simplify. So if it looks like too much work, too much energy output, because every time you change, every time you do something new, your brain goes, I gotta think, I gotta concentrate. That takes energy. And your brain wants to preserve energy just in case you need saving, which we most of the time don't. But that's how it's designed. That's its role. It's supposed to save us. So your brain basically goes on strike. And that's why you revert back to your old patterns and habits. In science, those patterns and habits are called neural pathways. And let me explain what that is. They actually happen without you knowing. You have no clue that you actually have them, and you don't even know what's in your brain until you're able to name it. When you're up to age about 7, you're just living your life, and your brain makes connections that right now, if you think about it, might make no sense. Like, why don't I like strawberries for whatever reason? Well, it might have been something as simple as when you were eating strawberries, your parents started fighting, and your brain associated the fighting with the strawberries. And then next time you found a strawberry that was, let's say, kind of rotten and you ate it and didn't taste well, it stacked, combined, and now you don't like strawberries. But that's a very simple example. But the truth is that all your beliefs and systems and neural pathways that are formed on the basic level happen by the age of 7. And then our brain looks for proof and goes around and picks events that are proving your brain right. Your brain has an ego. If we ever talk about ego, our brain has the ego. So it looks for those things and it proves us right over and over again. If we say, let's say all women are looking just to get ahead. Your brain, are there women that are looking to get ahead? Absolutely. Do all women look to get ahead? Absolutely not. Everybody has different needs. So that little system in your brain is our neural pathways. And at the beginning, they're as thin as hair. Then when you keep repeating something and finding proof, it becomes like a little ribbon. Then it becomes like a little side road. Then it becomes one-way road, then two-way road, and then a highway or a freeway. And when it becomes the size of a freeway, it becomes your default behavior, something you do automatically without thinking. And that is where we get doomed. Now, when we talk about small things, Small things are our daily habits. And there are plenty of books about that. But one of the things that I have noticed is that when people create big dreams, huge dreams, I want to make $1 million. Remember, your brain is looking for proof, and your brain looks at your account and goes, you got a freaking $1,000 in your account. How are you going to get 1 million? Not happening. So you stop believing your dream. So one of the ways to overcome that, our natural behavior, is to set dreams that are, yes, far away. We have that million somewhere on the horizon, but we're concentrating on getting $2,000, just $2,000 in our bank account. And when we do that, your brain goes, see, you got $2,000. Well, if you got two, maybe I can get four. When I got four, maybe I can get 8. So you build and stack and you double it. What happens is your brain doesn't see this as difficult. So it actually, you proceed to do things without the internal fight. That's too difficult. I can't do it. Now, for this recipe, we're missing one absolute key thing. Your brain loves to get high. Now, I'm saying this on purpose because it gets high on dopamine and serotonin. You cannot have both at the same time. It's one or the other that is being released. Both are happy hormones. Dopamine is the chill, relax. I'm happy. I'm good. I'm so amazing. Let me take care of me. And then you have the serotonin part, which is the, oh my God, this is so fantastic. I'm so excited. Let's do more of this. Now, we got to be careful not to go into overdrive and then get addicted to the high adrenaline, but we do need that. And celebration is something we miss. And here I always bring back a story. Gentlemen, this is a praise for you. 99.9% of men, when they watch sports, I want you to think back in your memory. How do they watch sports? Do they go, I'm not going to do anything until they win. I'm just watching. I'm not enjoying the game until they win. I'm just going to watch it. Of course not. They're excited. They're screaming, you passed 2 meters, 2 feet, drop the ball, pass it on. You got it. You can do it. They're celebrating the freaking process. And guess what? The outcome really doesn't matter at that point. Why? Because they enjoyed 3.5 hours and the outcome will have almost no meaning at the end. And that is something we can learn from this phenomenal group of humans, which are called men, the ability to celebrate. But what's even more interesting, those men are celebrating people that they never met, never will meet, and have no influence on their life. And they're putting so much power and full body joy, right? They're jumping up, screaming, throwing their hands up, raising their voices, giving high fives. Yet when you gentlemen achieve something, how do you celebrate you? And where would your life be if you would celebrate those 2 feet passing of the ball, those 5 phone calls? If you would celebrate yourself like you celebrate those teams, your life would look very different. Why? Because dopamine is also a counteractive for cortisol, which leads to stress, lack of creativity, shutting down of prefrontal cortex, lack of ability to finding a way out. And if we combine celebration of small steps, hey, I'm going to make 5 phone calls today, and I'm going to celebrate those 5 phone calls. And when the 5 phone calls become very simple, you know what? I'll make 8 phone calls today. I feel like 8. You make the 8 phone calls. And you teach your body and your brain that it is enjoyable to make progress. Notice that it's not about making 55 phone calls a day and getting 10 clients. It's about just that small step that you're taking every day and finding enjoyment in it. And that leads to another study that was done by Stanford based on feedback. They have found, and they follow those people for about 20 years, that when you speak to people and you give them feedback, it is much more effective if you praise and acknowledge overcoming challenges, finding a way out, doing the things on daily basis, even you understand that they didn't feel like it, which is supporting grit and this kind of tenacity. And they have found that over the years, people who started enjoying the process and celebrating those little things, finding solutions and doing the things daily, have achieved way more in life than people who are waiting for the outcome and the celebration. Because the outcome is just one-time thing. We go, yay, fantastic. Unless you're a big fan, I don't think most of us remember who won the Olympics 8 years ago.
So, Al, tell me, why have we all become a culture in a society to accept that it's okay not to reach these goals?
I think it's not about society accepting that it's not okay to reach these goals. It is the society that is teaching us that things that are hard, maybe it's not for us. And notice that we're looking for simple. If it's not easy, if it's not handed to us on a plate, we're giving kids participation trophy for participation. We're teaching them that it doesn't have to be hard. We are telling kids, there was a school in Texas which didn't allow students who got all their criteria and everything met, they didn't allow them to graduate because 40% of students didn't meet the criteria, and they didn't want the ones who didn't do the work feel bad. We're literally changing the emphasis on no kid left behind. Everybody has to be equal. Everybody deserves the same thing. We all deserve the same thing when we do the work. And that's the missing piece. And it's a part of society change. And this will go back again to kind of the middle ground. Right now, we're very far on one side. We used to be very rigid, and there was only one way of thinking. Emotions are not important. How we feel, we don't care. That's not good either, right? But we're now on the other side. And everything is about emotions and how everybody is feeling, which takes away the ability from adults and kids to self-regulate. And that's one thing we've never taught. And I'm waiting for the moment where we will put priority on self-regulation, where we are okay with being uncomfortable, where we're okay with not being okay. And it will go away because emotions are just chemical releases that create a feeling. And although very valid and very important, because this is information from our brain to our body about our decisions, about what's happening, at the same time, it's guaranteed. It is guaranteed that you're going to be uncomfortable. It is guaranteed that obstacles will show up. I don't know one entrepreneur in this world. I don't know one person who is successful who said that they have smooth sailing. Uh, there aren't people like that because life we cannot control. We cannot control, fall of the stock market. We cannot control somebody getting divorced. We cannot control somebody falling in love with somebody else. We cannot control an employee getting sick and, for example, not being able to find all their work or understand how they were conceptualizing it. So there are a lot of elements we cannot control, and we cannot predict everything. See, one of the problems with today's society is also that we're either in our feelings or we want to plan out everything. The challenge with that is that if you're only in your feelings and everything is about feelings, there's really no structure, and it's very fluid because people react to different things differently. With too much structure, we end up with lack of creativity because people are dismissed from thinking on their own and finding their own solutions. I'm a big proponent of creating structures that are frames and not steps, where it allows the creativity to flow within some frames, where it allows people to explore different options. And as long as we stay within legal frame or whatever else we decide that are the mandatory elements, it actually helps to speed up the process because people feel like they're taking part in something, and belonging is a human need. And to go back to your questions, why is it acceptable not to achieve? It's not. It's not. And that's why we feel down. That's why we have so many people with anxiety. That's why we have so many people with depression. That's why we have so many people that have anger management issues, stress issues. All of that is from not feeling good enough. That comes from imposter syndrome, which is in our head, where we compare ourselves to other people. The problem with that is that we compare ourselves to the moment in time that they're in, not comparing them to the moment in time that they were in when we were starting. So if I compare myself to Tony Robbins, I failed. I failed. I'm done. There's nothing I can do. I can just go home and cry. But if I look at myself when he was starting, when he was a janitor for many years to get where he was going, and that was his path for first, I don't know, 3-4 years, where he was doing one thing on one side and being a janitor, I'm way farther than he is in my journey, right? So there are a lot of things playing at hand, but the small steps and the emphasis on the final outcome, it is something that is hurting our society and our companies as well.
So tell me now, we talked about how this applies to individuals. Tell us how it applies to a business, an organization that is a group of individuals.
Right. So one of the things that we got to remember that company is a group of individuals, as you said. So all of these people have their goals, their plans, and their internal motives. Some of them are really perfectly happy doing their day-to-day work and going home, and they don't want anything else, and they're good with that because their need for growth, involvement is somewhere outside of the company. There are also people who absolutely love feeling recognized and being seen inside the company. At the same time, we seem to keep going and setting multiple KPIs. When I was in HR, I received a book from Ernest and Young, and we were doing training on it. There were 724 KPIs I could count. I don't know what am I going to do with that number, but it's 724 KPIs, and there were little formulas. And it was encouraged to collect data. Well, to collect data, we need the people to submit the data. Basically, they would have to stop working to submit all the data, right? But the idea was that if you can control and if you can count it, then you can mitigate all the issues. That took away from the element that is so important. It is looking at where we want to go and then looking at those small steps we need to take and enjoying the process. Everybody keeps saying, we need to hit the target, we need to hit the target. When I hear I need to hit the target, I shut down. That's my personality. The moment you tell me and the target is a year away and I have like this huge road in front of me, and most people are like that as well, it's overwhelming and I don't feel the joy. But if my, let's say, supervisor or person I'm working with, hey, we need to, get those 5 chapters done or whatever, 5 paragraphs, that seems very doable. And most likely I'll have that done way before deadline so we can do even more because it is enjoyable. And what I have found is that managers are stuck on the idea of that everything is just goal planning, setting, refurbishing, changing everything, and everything is so number driven. Every manager that I've met that manages the way I promote, at least as an option, hasn't even looked at a KPI. What we do, we look at a person and we go, where is that person going to thrive in my environment, in my little frame? What's the thriving element in that person? Where is that person going to grow and contribute the most? It really doesn't matter what their job description is at that point. It does matter for HR and for legal purposes. But then we adjust those things so it works. And the beautiful thing is that understanding that people need diversity, but not all of them. Some people just love doing the same thing over and over, and that's their passion. I mean, if you would ask me to do tomorrow accounting, I'm a failure, like immediately. This is not happening. The company is going to fail because I'm going to make millions of mistakes and I'm going to get bored to death within 5 seconds. But there are people who absolutely love that. So why ask them to lead projects if they don't want to lead projects? They love their numbers. So look at people with their potential and their gifts, place them in their gifts. And then with the Pareto method, which I absolutely love, 20% of a challenge, which is not overwhelming. And it gives them the feeling of growth that they're learning something new, and most people need that to thrive. So that's number 1. Number 2, people who I've spoken with and we have the same vision is, besides not looking at KPIs, is actually meeting the servant leadership and meeting them as guides, not as managers. That's a very different approach. Guide allows you to explore. manager tells you. And it's a very different vision from a leader. And don't get me wrong, when times are tough, when things are falling apart, you don't need a guide. You need a leader. You need a person who's going to determine what's happening because it's the saving time. But we're very rarely in those situations, and we keep using the same styles of management. And that's, again, we're dreaming big. We're overwhelming people with numbers that they don't feel. What is their big? What is their big for their department or for their company or for their unit? What is their big? What would they like the unit to accomplish? And let them create that. When we combine everybody's dreams, you can actually create pretty awesome dream because they have created that. The moment you force people to be a part of something that they have no emotional attachment to, it's not their dream. So they're working for somebody else and they're doing it because they've been told to. And don't get me wrong, our society, if you're working at a factory and you're separating hangers, building cars, obviously, with all due respect, there's not much place for framing. There's a specific process. But that's not all jobs. There are quite a few jobs that would allow a space for that type of approach, dreaming big and acting small and enjoying the process. I'm going to repeat that over and over, enjoying the process.
So where does this all, when you all put this in this mixing bowl together, all these thoughts that you just brought up, where does it apply, or how does creativity apply to this whole process?
Oh, I love that question. So creativity is the time when you stop planning. And it is so crucial. So one of the things when we do workshops with people is that in neuroscience, you need to turn off your prefrontal cortex for your creativity to stop working. And start working, not stop, start working. And your creativity demands lack of planning. Creativity demands boredom. Creativity demands weird stimuli that comes from nowhere. I want to ask you, and if you guys are listening, think about it. When do you have your best ideas? I can guarantee 90% of you will say in a car or in a shower. Why? Because that's the time you relax, you're not thinking, you're singing, your brain is wandering, and then you go, oh my God, I have this brilliant idea. And then there's another one where creativity is actually accessed by your brain is when you wake up. So when you ask your brain a question when you go to sleep, and then the organs shut down, we go into rigor, we're not moving, your brain doesn't have to manage your body. It starts cleaning itself out during your phases of sleep. And then it accesses deep memories. And when it does that, it connects information that are there, but are not surfacing because it has so many other things to do. That's what we call actually intuition. Intuition is scientifically proven information from deep core of your brain going, and you feel that either butterflies or you feel something, you have a feeling, as we call it. It's information that you have the knowledge and you just need to learn how to read it correctly. So creativity, when your people are doodling, when they're talking to you, please let them. This is when the brain wanders. They're listening and the information is being connected in different ways. Our biggest inventions are usually out of boredom or laziness. They're not because we were hard workers. We didn't want to do something, and that's where it came from. So if you want to have creative time, make sure you allow for the downtime. And it might be, playing games. There are some companies that allow people to play ping pong, which is great for bilateral stimulation. If you want to put a game, that's definitely one of them. Pickleball is another one that's great for your brain, helps oxygenate the brain. And definitely allow for unusual activities, ask unusual questions where people have to start going outside of the box. And for some people, it will be a challenge because it's out of the norm that they're used to. But with time, we're allowing ourselves to access the deeper memories and create sometimes solutions that we would have never came up with. That is why when people invite sometimes consultants from outside who have never been in a business, they see things we never saw as it's obviously going to do it like this. Why? Because they don't have the habit, they don't have the standard, they don't have the optimization that their brain did because they kept repeating the same thing over and over. Their neural pathways run different ways. And that's where their creativity go, well, I can apply this here. And you go, oh, we never done it like this. Try it. Try it, because it might turn out that it works better.
This has been a great episode, and I can't thank you enough for your time today. But before I let you go, please give us one more little bit of inspiration advice that's going to help us start taking those necessary, very necessary small steps to get to our next point, whatever that point might look like.
Well, I invite you, first of all, besides getting the book that you spoke about at the beginning, I invite you to, when you have a list of things to do, opposite of what everybody else says, I invite you to take the easiest things first and celebrate. Why? Because it makes you feel better. You're much more ready for more difficult things. Not every personality will work with this, but I found that most personalities do it better. And do those things until they become so natural, so easy, like you're walking and you're not thinking about it. Then it's time to take the more difficult steps. Repeat them every day. Celebrate the living heck out of it the way you celebrate, watching games and your favorite team. And then when that becomes natural, take another one. Stacking, as we call it, and progression with enjoyment makes life much easier. When you stress less, you're more creative. When you stress less, you live longer, you build better relationships. And one of the important things is to share those wins, those little wins, with people around you. Why? Because we on our own can experience only a certain level of joy. To experience more joy, that's why we share it with others. So share it with others. Don't think it's inappropriate. Maybe you could have a daily meeting saying, hey, what went great today? What did we, not accomplish, but what did you do great? What can we celebrate with you? It lifts people up. And when people are in a good mood, they're actually willing to do more.
Well, great closing advice. I can't thank you enough. If someone listens to or watches this podcast, how can they get in touch with you?
You can always find me on LinkedIn, Dominkia Staniewicz, or on yourbraincoachd.com, or you can find me on Facebook and Instagram, yourbraincoachd.com, as well as on LinkedIn, or they can reach out to you, and I'm sure you'll pass on by.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, and I hope to have you on very soon for another podcast episode.
It was my absolute pleasure, and I would love to.
My podcast wouldn't be the same if it wasn't for my sponsors and my great supporters. So let me take this opportunity to thank each and every one of them. First of all, I want to thank Rebecca at Custom Bookkeeping and Accounting, delivering trustworthy bookkeeping services since 2003. Dave and Dara at Virtues Matter, making this world a much happier place to be with their Virtues Card apps, coaching, and workshops. Stephen at Buller Accounting, giving business owners depth and insight to their numbers. Eric and his team at Ivy Cat Web Design, the real superheroes of web development and design. Jennifer and Jean at the Seavers Real Estate Team, serving Pierce and Kitsap counties with their home buying and selling needs. Maury at the Maury Method, the world's only brainwave entrainment engineer, helping everyone have more clarity, less stress, and overall better brain health. Priya at Pivot My Profit, helping individuals and businesses have better control of their finances and more money at the end of their day. Melissa at the Soul Vibe Energy High, the queen of the aha moments, helping individuals find those holes in their cups, repair the hole, and gain back their positive energy. And finally, Rick at West Sound Recording. You talk, they do all the rest. Thank you, Rick, for all your efforts with the production and editing of my podcast.